Jill Evans, Plaid Cymru MEP. What do you make of the situation surrounding these 6 Britons that are imprisoned in Russia?
Well, I think it's really shocking. Greenpeace have been a very active campaigning organisation for many, many years, and it's thanks to them that we have a lot of the environmental laws that we do have now. They've raised awareness, in this case, of the dangers of drilling for oil in the Arctic, a very, very delicate ecosystem that could easily be polluted. And this act was, like many others by Greenpeace, a direct action, but non-violent, harmed no one, and the fact that people have been charged with piracy is out of all proportion to the actions that they took.
And that's really what I wanted to ask you next. What do you make of the Russian response? You mentioned there that it's direct action. They do at least push the limits of the law, if I can put it like that, don't they, Greenpeace?
I don't think that anybody expects, when you take direct action, I have myself, you don't expect there to be no repercussions, no response by the authorities, and you plan these activities in the full knowledge that will happen. But what seems to have happened in this case is because the ship was actually in international waters, piracy is an excuse to arrest and charge them, because otherwise the Russians would be acting illegally. And of course it carries a prison sentence up to 15 years. And the people who've been arrested, one of them, Anthony Perrott from Newport, has already been in prison, held in prison for many weeks, denied bail, and facing charges which are not related in any way to the environmental protest that they set out to do quite legitimately in many ways to raise awareness to what is a serious problem.
Now, I understand that on behalf of your constituent and the others that are imprisoned, you've signed up to a petition. Just explain what action you've taken and what you'd like to see.
Well, of course, this was a Greenpeace action. It was a Greenpeace boat. They were Greenpeace members, and Greenpeace naturally has been organising people. Last weekend there were events in nearly 40 countries. Tens of thousands of people came out to show solidarity, to support the 30 who were in prison, to call for their release and for the drop-in of the piracy charges. If people go online at Greenpeace, they can see where they can sign up. I've signed a message to the Russian ambassador in London calling for those charges to be dropped, and here in the European Parliament we'll be debating it later this afternoon. And I very much hope that the High Representative for Foreign Affairs here will pledge to make very strong representations to the Russian government. I think that in Russia too people know that piracy, it was no way an act of piracy, and that it is totally inappropriate. And separately, the government in the Netherlands are actually taking Russia to court because it was a Dutch ship flying a Dutch flagship. So there are several actions going on, but people can, of course, join in that. They can show support and call for the release of these, what are environmental protesters, not pirates.
You mentioned briefly there the EU response. How important is that, and how much weight could it carry?
Well, it's very important because there are ongoing talks about relations between the EU and Russia, about trade and so on. And incidents like this obviously shake our faith in the ability of the Russian government to respect human rights and to act with fairness and decency in these sorts of cases. And I think it's something that we should be speaking out very strongly about with Russia. I hope that the UK government will do so. I hope that the Welsh government will do so as well on behalf of the Welshman who is one of the people in prison. And these things, this abuse of human rights, which this is, cannot be allowed to just go without us making the strongest of representations to the Russian government.
Just briefly, what do you think will happen next? Do you see a resolution in sight?
Well, I certainly hope so. I mean, the events up until now have been very disappointing. There is one court case on today with one of the Russian freelance journalists who is also imprisoned. He's one of the 30 people in prison. It'll be interesting to see what happens there, but I very much hope that we do get a statement from the Parliament today and that can make a difference, that can get the prisoners freed immediately on bail, and of course that the charges dropped. It's simply not acceptable that individuals who have a right to protest should be treated in this way. Most countries respect that right to protest, and it should be done in this case too.